Hi everyone, I'm back again. This time I'm doing the Synastry chart between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman by request. Before I get started on their Synastry chart, I just want to tell you that I'll be doing Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner's Synastry chart next, and that is really fascinating. So hit the subscribe button and stay in the loop. Now between these two, it all comes together in the end. So you have to pay attention and listen to each aspect that I explain, and it'll form a picture. Her Alma, Jupiter, Ceres conjuncts his moon and hell in the ninth house. And the ninth house rules religion and churches. There's a lot of nice placements here conjuncting his moon, but we have hell involved, and that has to do with secrets, things that are hidden. Alma has to do with soul. Jupiter magnifies these energies, and Ceres has to do with unconditional love. So that's what she brought to him because it's conjuncting his moon, which is wonderful. Ceres conjuncting the moon, unconditional love, and it's almost can be a soulmate connection. However, going through the rest of the chart, that became, it dissipated and ended, and I will explain that. So Jupiter, her Jupiter conjuncting his hell, secrets and things that are hidden, and a huge hidden secrets. His Asbolus conjuncts her vertex in the ninth house. Again, the vertex, another important point in a compatibility chart. It's like a second ascendant, so you have to pay attention to what conjuncts your vertex from the other person, because those energies will affect you strongly. His Asbolus, that has to do with secrets again, traumatic situations and experiences. Now, what are these secrets and traumatic situations between these two? For starters, his Mira conjuncts her Mercury and hell, again, in the ninth house. Mercury, the talking and thinking planet, conjuncting her hell. So they talked about this, and there was an understanding about keeping the secrets about the church, I think, with this asteroid, and that's Mira, which has to do with unconventional sex and taboo. So to give you some examples of what that asteroid, those energies of this asteroid represent, concerning the unconventional sex and taboos, it has to do with orgies, masochism, possible dominatrix sort of things going on. So a lot of this what went on. This is a very dark relationship, and there's just a lot of instances with cover-ups and secrets involving the church and sex, I think. And I'm just telling you what the chart is telling me. Her Fink, Anubis, Dionysus, and Jupiter conjuncts his north node 1 degree. Whatever touches your north node from the other person, that will ultimately be the theme of the relationship for you. And in this case, her Fink, that has to do with disloyalty. Anubis, that's the Egyptian god of the underworld. Again, darkness. Dionysus has to do with drinking and partying. And Jupiter magnifies these energies because it's the largest planet in the solar system. Now, I know that there's a lot of reports that say that he's clean, he doesn't drink, and he doesn't do drugs. And she doesn't either. However, there was a book written by Amy Scobie called Scientology, Abuse at the Top. I didn't read the book. But before she published it, she was going to put a part in the book that said that Tom Cruise allegedly was a drug user and tried to hide it. Then what happened was his lawyer sent her a letter and said, that's not true, and we're going to get you for slander, and you better be careful and not disclose that in the book. So I don't know if what what she's saying is correct. I know that she was very involved with Scientology and has really good reviews on Amazon. But what this is telling me is that she may be correct in her assumptions, because also conjuncting the North Node is the asteroid Rufus, and Rufus has to do with drugs. So to me, this suggests a lot of parties that involve drinking, and there was drugs involved and darkness. And this reminds me, a lot of this chart reminds me of that movie they were in, Eyes Wide Shut. So what was she disloyal about? Well, her Lucretia conjuncts his Venus in the 10th house. And Lucretia has to do with blackmail. And it also has to do with sexual violations on the mild side. So there's a possibility that she was leaning towards exposing him in some way through blackmail. It's conjuncting his Venus, and that's a love planet, and it's in the 10th house. That has to do with careers. His Don Quixote, Anubis, and Apophis conjuncts her Venus. Again, Anubis there, god of the underworld, darkness. Don Quixote, that has to do with the impossible dream. And Apophis is conjuncting her Venus. So this is where the love that she felt about him, the love that she thought that was real, and in the beginning for her it was, but then all this other darkness seeped in. And his Apophis conjuncting her Venus, that has to do with destruction. So the love that she had for him was destroyed, and it had to do with the darkness, and it had also, she realized that it was just the impossible dream, because that's what Don Quixote, those energies represent. Her Calypso, Mad Hatter, and Nessus conjuncts his vertex 3 degrees, and also his Astarte, and this is in the 8th house. The 8th house rules sex. Calypso, things that are secrets and things that are hidden as well. Mad Hatter, craziness. You get into an argument with somebody and they act all crazy, and then they blame you for the craziness. And I think it really is kind of like a gaslighting energy. Nessus has to do with abuse. And since it's conjuncting his vertex, he felt these energies strongly, and it's also conjuncting his Astarte. So there were blowups. There were arguments about the craziness that went on in this darkness in their relationship, and there was abusive arguments over all of these secrets involved. And like I said, it's in the 8th house that rules sex. So this really ties back into the Mira asteroid I was talking about, and also the Asbolus, secrets, traumatic situations. His finale, Actor and Persephone, conjuncts her descendant and North Node, and Grimm. Interesting, because it just rolls right along, and everything is just fitting into a picture that it's all consistent. So his finale, that's a death marker, but it also means endings. And he's an actor. And Persephone has to do with the underworld, the unwilling bride of the underworld. She was kidnapped and taken to the depths of hell, and after a while, she just didn't want to be there anymore. But this is conjuncting her descendant. Very important angle, and also her North Node. So that was really the theme of the relationship for her, ultimately. And since her Grimm is conjuncting her North Node, that has to do with fairy tales. So this was not a fairy tale per se. It was like a dark fairy tale where we have the underworld and Pluto and just all kinds of nefarious situations going on. His Mars and Grimm conjuncts her Maniac 0 degrees. Mars, lower octave of Pluto, fire and power, war planet. It conjuncts his Grimm, fairy tales, and which is conjuncting her Maniac. So We have maniacal sort of behavior, moodiness, dissension, and arguments, and over, again, this dark fantasy underworld fairy tale. His Astrius, Attica, conjuncts her Lilith, and point of fortune, 0 degrees and 2 degrees. Astraeus, that has to do with sexual abuse, violations. Attica has to do with prison. So these two asteroids conjuncting her Lilith and point of fortune, she was a prisoner sexually, I think. And there was darkness, and again, I don't know if she was violated sexually, but that's what this indicates. And there's the point of fortune involved, which is like a mini Jupiter, and it magnifies these energies. And these orbs are tight. I mean, 0 degrees and 2 degrees as well. To validate that, her Hebe conjuncts his Lilith, 2 degrees. Lilith has to do with raw sexuality. Hebe has to do with being a slave. So I think that she was a slave to him and would have to go along with whatever he demanded. His maniac conjuncts her moon, 0 degrees. Here we have maniac again. And it's conjuncting her moon, and this orb is the tightest that you can possibly get. You don't want any negative energies conjuncting your moon from anyone. And maniac, I've already explained that energy. It's crazy behavior. His Hebe conjuncts her Mercury. So again, with the slave situation and talking, so she said to him, I think, or there was conversations between the two of them that indicated she felt like she was a slave, and she couldn't really be herself or move along freely. She was trapped, and that goes back to the Attica asteroid I explained. His lie conjuncts her ascendant and south node, 0 degrees. And his Neptune also conjuncts her ascendant and south node. So we have a lot of deception going on here, and lying as well. Not being truthful. I think she knew, after a while she figured it out, but in the beginning it took a while because Neptune it's foggy and there's illusions involved, and it puts you in a sort of denial. But there was a lot of untruths that went on between the two of them, and she kind of explained it away in the beginning because it's conjuncting her south node. Whatever conjuncts your south node from the other person, you will almost be comfortable in a way with those energies, or just explain it away, like, oh, it's just the way he is, or yeah, I know there's some lies involved, but it's really not that serious. That's how the interactions with asteroids play into the culmination when it's conjuncting someone's south node. And his Mars conjuncts her lie. So there was both sides. I think there were lies involved. His Messalina conjuncts her Sun, 2 degrees, in the 8th house. And like I said before, the 8th house rules sex, and his Messalina conjuncting her Sun, sexual manipulation, and it just goes right along with the rest of these asteroids and their energies. So I'm going to get to some planetary placements here. I thought this was important because this also really does tie into the rest of the chart. We have Venus squaring Neptune, 2 degrees. His Venus squares her Neptune. This is one of the most deceptive planetary squares that I think, because Neptune is just again, there's vagueness, deception, and it usually comes from the Neptune person, and Venus is the planet of love. And 2 degrees is pretty tight. So deception guaranteed. Also, his Pluto squares her moon, 5 degrees. That's like, to me, really the kiss of death. Pluto squaring moon is really one of the worst, because It's like the energies are it creeps in, these dark energies creep in suddenly, and there's this, the Pluto person has this unconscious control, or psychically dominant over the moon person, which is her, and emotional dominance. And the Pluto person knows that they don't do it on purpose, because like I said, it's like an unconscious thing, and they know that they can get away with it. They know that they can possibly emotionally control the other person, because Pluto is powerful, and it's a dark sort of energy. And they will eventually bully the moon person over time, to the point where the moon person will just becomes resentful over all of the power struggles, the emotional dominance and power struggles involved. And there's a possessiveness by the Pluto person towards the moon person. And that possessiveness to me goes back to the Attica conjuncting her Lilith, and the Hebe and the slave, those slave energies. It all really ties in together. And also, since his Pluto is squaring her moon, I wanted to see where his moon was in his natal chart, because that would give me more information. Now, his moon is in the ninth house, and the ninth house rules, again, like I said before, the church and religion, and his moon is squaring his Neptune. That really spells a lot out for me, because moon squaring Neptune, it can indicate delusions. Also, it can indicate involvement in cults, and also delusions of grandeur. So these power struggles that happened, I think, between the two of them had to do with the church, and there's just darkness involved here. And you can read between the lines. I don't have to spell it out again, or I don't want to, come right out and say it, but you get the idea. And his Neptune is in Scorpio, ruled by Mars and Pluto, underworld darkness. So that's all I have, and I will be back again soon for more Synastry charts. Have a nice day.